Hi, I'm Evelyn.
And I'm Robert.
And we're talking about it.
Yeah, so real fast, I just want to mention something about the Rings of Power.
Okay.
So far, I approve.
Yeah, I like it.
I do too. They're not rewriting anything. Matter of fact, that's what Tolkien's estate said. They pretty much gave them freedom, but they couldn't contradict what's already written.
Oh, okay.
And so it's interesting how they're doing this.
It is.
I really like Galadriel at this point.
Yeah, I really like Galadriel. I really like the mystery that's kind of going on between like who some people are.
Right.
I'm absolutely adoring the dwarves. Like the dwarves are just just adore them.
Yeah, the couple.
Yeah, Durin and his wife. I absolutely adore them.
Yeah, and the friendship they have with Elrond.
Yes, I love that friendship. It's great. And I feel like it's showing like a healthy male like friendship.
Yeah.
Because like not any to be spoiler free, basically Elrond makes a choice to tell Durin something that he wasn't sure if he could tell him. But for the sake of their friendship, he kind of needed to.
Yep.
And it goes well. And it's
you
really
haven't
nice.
watched the latest episode though.
No, I haven't. I am an episode behind.
So okay, yeah.
So maybe I'm about to contradict myself with this.
No,
next
not
time.
contradict yourself really, because the two of them are still good friends.
Okay.
So all right.
That's good. Okay, I'm glad. I know I'm behind on that. I'm behind on She-Hulk, and I'm behind on House of Dragons. I get behind so easily. I need to like watch things. Okay.
All right. So first, I want to ask you, what were your predictions for this chapter? You didn't even bother to look it up.
I completely forgot all about my predictions. Hold on. All right, so I looked it up because I was totally unprepared. I will admit that. So
you should have just seen her eyes when I said, "So, do you remember your predictions?" She's had those eyes like a
predictions was going through my head.
Deer caught in the headlights look.
It really was. Oh. Okay, so my predictions were, the first one was that he was going to try to burn down the place where he and Faramir were in, but it wasn't going to work.
Okay, so technically, you got it 3/4 right.
I want a full point.
No, because you said
on a technicality.
No, because you said the house.
I said house because I forgot the name of where they actually were.
It doesn't matter. They're not in their home at all.
I didn't mean their house. I meant wherever they were. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
They were in their house. They were in their home.
Yeah.
When you made that prediction, the last place they were was in their home.
Oh, true. Okay, you're right.
And then they
went somewhere else.
They brought them
to
the Hallows.
All right, 3/4 of a point. All right, I'll take it. Better than a half a point. Okay. And the second prediction was that Denethor was going to ride out into battle and get like knocked down, but he wouldn't die. Okay. Well,
that's totally wrong.
I know. But we could have addressed that later. How wrong I was.
No, we'll talk about how wrong you was
when we get there.
How long you was, how long you were, how long you are.
I'm 5 feet tall. That's how long
I
am.
No, you're not. You're only 4'11"
and a half. On a good day, I'm 5 feet. Okay. All right, and then my final prediction was that he was going to live long enough for him to see Aragorn and get bitter about it.
Meh.
I know. I honestly, I still feel like if he did survive to see the whole Aragorn thing, he would be mad about it. He strikes me as that type of dude.
Well, he was mad about it. Even in this chapter, he's mad about it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah, he's an awful guy.
So, I also want to say something we haven't been saying for a while, and I think most people who are listening understand this anyway, but we're going to be talking about the chapter. So it is full of spoilers. So if you don't know what's going to happen here,
read first.
Read first. And we may have already given some away.
Probably. But yeah, I feel like we do have a lot of new listeners. So yes, everything is chapter by chapter. Everything is brand spanking new for me. Like, I've honestly never read these books, and I honestly don't think I even saw the third movie. Like, I really have no memory of the third movie, so I don't even think I saw it because of how freaked out Gollum made me of the other movies. I barely even remember the second movie when we watched it. So I really don't know what's happening. And so these are my, like, true reactions coming in. And then Dad, of course, has read this book way too many times. So he's just...
You can never read this book too many times.
That is true. We're going to discuss the logistics of this, but part of the podcast is once we're done, eventually down the line, we're going to do, like, a reread where we'll just talk book by book, like, just... we'll just do a reread and do like a short, like, couple of, like, podcast episodes of rereading it and see what I think after a reread and after, like, and see what I pick up on now that I know things. So we'll figure out actual logistics of that well later. It'll definitely be after we read The Hobbit. So, we'll kind of go from there at a later date. But for now, yeah, I'm going into things and I definitely go, what? While reading a lot. It was really bad last chapter. Last chapter, like, Dad audibly, like, I could hear him laughing from the next room because I audibly went, whoa! And he just starts laughing.
I know where you're at.
Exactly.
So I find it really interesting how this chapter starts. It basically starts with Pippin hearing the horns.
Yes, and I love the way that Tolkien describes it as, like, he's never, like, he literally teared up out of, like, oh, thank goodness. And that moment of overwhelming, like, we're gonna be okay kind of thing, like, overcomes him every time he hears a horn in the future. Like, that's how imperative this horn is. Like, just seems to be no hope. There is zero hope right now for Gondor until they see the reinforcements.
Yeah, and how he describes how Pippin gets a tear in his eye every time he hears horns.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I thought, the way he describes it and so forth.
It really shows you, how important this moment is, not just to Pippin, but to Gondor.
But also, with what's coming up in the chapter,
mm-hmm.
I can't help but wonder if Pippin also has some PTSD.
Oh, for sure.
So, even being such a happy-go-lucky, the world's on a golden plate type of guy.
Oh, it's...
Horns probably make him tear in his eye with Thanksgiving, but also with,
like, sadness about what happened.
What happened, what he's gone through.
Yeah, both him and Mary, like, they definitely come back changed. I'm probably going to get... There's a quote that goes something along the lines of, the same person never returns from war. And I forget, like, who said that. It's like, it's an old adage, but it's true. And even though they're able to still be, like, from what I understand, from things that you have let slip, they're still able to be, like, a little happy-go-lucky, but more mature and more, like, literally battle-tested.
Yeah.
Is what I'm guessing. Like I said earlier, guys, I have no idea, but he's let some things slip here and there.
So, Pippin goes and finds Gandalf and tells him what's going on. And Gandalf tells Prince, I'm going to hack up this name, Prince Imrahil, to take charge.
That's about how I pronounced it.
Yeah. So, And if you don't recall, there is a principality within the land.
Right. They're the swan guys. Am I right?
I don't remember. I think so.
Yeah.
And so.
But yeah, there's a principality within the region, and Gandalf's like,
You're next senior, you're in charge, basically,
like,
yes.
He's like, I gotta go take care of this thing, and I can't take care of this thing at the same time, so, good luck. He's like, I need to go prevent one disaster.
It's not like that.
That's kind of the way I read it, where it's just like, he's like, oh my god, I have an overdramatic king thing. I know he's not a king, but it's like king-ish guy, and a battle of like our lives, and I have to go stop the overdramatic guy from making a huge mistake.
Right.
And even though I really should be at the battle.
Right. So
I feel like he's exasperated in this moment.
But what's also interesting is, how Tolkien talks about the darkness is passing.
Yes.
And so, so he creates an actuality of that along with, what's happening morally on the field of battle.
Yeah.
So, hearts are being lifted a little bit. Darkness is gone. So, so when Gandalf gets there, he finds that the door, the guy that holds the keys to the door, is slain.
Yeah.
And the keys are missing. And Gandalf states it's the worst of everything. Mm-hmm. There's nothing he doesn't see right now. He doesn't see what could actually be worse. And even all the way up there where they're at, they can still hear the sounds of battle.
Yeah.
And Gandalf is worried about the madness that's going on right here in front of his eyes.
Yeah. Like, he's gone cuckoo bananas.
Yeah. And Baragon is holding the door. He's keeping the people from coming in to bring the firewood and the oil and stuff like that. And Denethor says, "Slay this renegade for me." Mm-hmm. And so, renegade can have a positive meaning, but that's not what he means. Here he's saying it as if it's a turncoat.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And to me, I had to pause at this part reading it because I had to think to myself, what do these guys bringing the wood and oil actually think? And what I came to is that they're probably in the same position as Denethor, where they believe all is truly hopeless. And so they understand where the king is coming from. So that way they're like, yeah, we'll follow his orders because this is a sucky situation and there's nothing else to do. So might as well go out on our own terms kind of thing.
Right.
Is kind of what I came to the conclusion is what I think they're thinking.
Yeah, I'm going to go through some of that later. But one of the things I found interesting here is this is where Denethor starts using the thou, thee, and thy stuff. The more formal words.
Okay.
Like you would say in court. So when thou, thee, and thy appears, it's usually meant to mark use of this form that what he's about to say is very important.
Like, this is my judgment, this is the law, this is my command, you better follow.
Yeah. For instance, it's used by Denethor in his last madness to Gandalf. It was also used by the messenger of Sauron back in Book 5, Chapter 10. And in both cases, it's intended to be the person speaking it looks at the people he is speaking to as being much lower in his eyes.
Yeah.
So there's a deliberate change to the form of affection or endearment here.
Mm-hmm. Which I gotta say, I did not pick up on because I'm currently rereading the Percy Jackson series and I'm on book 3 with Zoe and she uses these and thous, but that's meant to just make her look give her the impression that she's much older than she seems, like she's ancient, and that's how she learned English was with the these and thous. So I didn't really pick up on that until just now, but now that you've said that, I'm reconsidering this chapter in my head. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what he's doing.
So, in all of this, when Gandalf gets the keys, he gives them to Benergon to take care of him. So he is now Benergon is now the holder of the keys, the keeper of the keys, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here later too.
Okay.
Now, these tombs, it's a sacred place,
right?
I think he uses the word hollows at least once.
Yeah, he does.
In there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that means. But then we have suddenly this radiant white, what seems like a radiant white light coming from Gandalf. Mm-hmm. So it's, he's no longer, we've known he's no longer the gray.
Right.
But here is one of those
moments where it's like, we know he's Gandalf the White. And that's something that is punctuated in the text as well, where Denethor calls him the Grey at one point.
Yeah.
And he's like, nope, you're wrong.
Well, yes, right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And I've seen a couple of commentators write about where Gandalf was always full of light. Mm-hmm. And that's why he wore gray over himself, so he did not shine the light all the time.
Interesting.
So,
I mean, that fits for what we know for his personality. It's like, he's kind of a bamf, but, like, at the same time...
For those of us over 30, what's a bamf?
Badass mother effer.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's a BAMF.
Samuel Jackson saying, okay.
Something Samuel Jackson would say. So he's a BAMF, but it's like he knows he is, but he'd rather be enjoying life and like having a simple life. He prefers that, as well documented in the early parts of this book.
Right.
And that is something that I think tracks. I think he always knew he had the potential for it, but he just didn't. He always knew the potential for it. He just didn't want that responsibility.
I think using the word potential is misplaced. He knows what he has.
Right. You're right. Yeah. He knows what he has.
It's not a potential. He
would just prefer not to need it.
Right.
Like, because if he needs it, that means the world's in trouble.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm getting at. Yeah.
And one of the lines I love in this chapter is, "The house of the dead is no place for the living."
Yes. Yeah, that was a good line.
Yeah.
That was a solid line. Very Tolkien, very high fantasy. Yeah.
And Denethor's response is basically, "I'm not answerable to thee." So, I'm not answerable to you. I'm not answerable to thee. And it's a throwback to Denethor, again, talking about how he knows more than Gandalf. Mm-hmm. And he even says something along the lines.
Yeah, he even says something along the lines like, "I know more than you." It's like, "I've been watching from these high towers, Gandalf," or something like that. And I just imagine Gandalf, like, hands on hips, rolling his eyes, like, just like, dude.
You know what?
I mean, I mean,
I
know it's a more serious moment,
but I don't see Gandalf like that. I see Gandalf having concern on his face, going, "How the f does he think? Why the f does he think he knows more than me?
Right?
Is there something I don't know? I don't think he's going to go, ha, idiot, I know more than you.
No, that's not what I mean.
I think he's going to be concerned.
I think he's concerned in this moment. I don't think he thinks like, oh, you're such an idiot. I think he thinks it's like, dude, we've been having this fight for years, because he doesn't like him that he taught Faramir.
Yeah.
And like they've been contentious for years, and he's like, dude, really? Even in this moment, you're still gonna be like this? That's what I meant. Okay. Not it's like, you idiot. It's more like, really, in this moment, you're still gonna be like this? I think he's gonna be concerned, in his head, I think that like if it was a less serious moment, he would have like.
I don't see Gandalf being a person who would ever put his hands on his hips.
No.
I don't think and now I don't mean just the gesture. I mean
in his head.
No, I don't think he ever has that. I'm tired of this crap thought, or being.
Oh, he definitely has with Pippin and Merry.
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't.
Like he might be more elegant than that, but that's the vibes he gives off.
He already knows that the two of them are going to have an important part of this,
right? But
so then the warning he gives when they're making the noise in the mines, it's to get their attention and say, hey, this is no longer a romp through the forest.
Yeah.
This is important.
Right.
Stop being a...
No, I think he's very elegant and mild-mannered and calm-ish and, like, elegant and stuff, like, on face value.
I don't call it elegant. Like, I don't call it elegance. It's, it's like...
It's just the vibes he gives off.
No, but it's...
Is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't think he gives off those... I wouldn't think he gives off those type of vibes.
That's the type of vibes I'm getting.
I think he's more like the old patriarch.
Okay.
Old patriarch. I don't think he ever really sighs at what somebody says or somebody does.
Well, no, I don't think so either. I just think that in his head he does.
I don't think so. I don't think that's true. Knowing who he is and where he comes from.
Okay, well, I don't know as much about him as you do. So from my limited experience, this is kind of how I've been reading him, as kind of like this sassy...
I don't know where you're getting that at all.
I find him sassy. I find him real sassy.
See, you just made me do it. Right.
You can be sassy. Please never do that again. Or learn how to do that correctly.
I knew I was doing it wrong halfway through it. Guess it's supposed to be a Z.
You still did it wrong.
So the funeral fire is ready to go. And Faramir is already on the table. So
Gandalf is like freaked right now because of what Denethor says. Like, you're missing over what Denethor says. Denethor is like, oh yeah, he's already burning. And Gandalf is immediately...
he's already, right? Because there's no fire in there. He's not already burning.
No, he says he's already burning. And so, or something along the lines like that. Enough to make Gandalf, like, immediately like, oh my gosh, what did you just do? And he's immediately, like, extremely concerned. And he's like, out of the way, I need to see Faramir right now. And they get there, and he's not on fire yet, but he's ready to. And he's like...
Yeah, because even his clothes are soaked in oil.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, thank God. Like Gandalf is, like, visibly, like, shaken when Denethor says that. And he's visibly, like, calmer once he sees that Faramir is not, like, burning. He is burning in the sense that he's still raging a fever, but that's the only burning he is. Right, yeah. It's essentially what the book says.
And it's interesting,
and I thought that was a really great moment of vulnerability for Gandalf.
Well, I don't think it's a vulnerability. I think it's a show of strength within him. Because he's always... Gandalf tries to be a guiding hand and not the hands that take control of things.
No, I agree. But this is
But here's when he's like,
he is taking control. He's taking control of the situation. But I think like the concern he has for Faramir shows that vulnerability where he has something that like Saruman doesn't have, which is compassion for others, and he has these bonds with these people. He has these like true bonds with Faramir, with Pippin, with all these people, and it truly hurts him when they are in danger or sick or dying or dead. And I think it is a moment of strength to show him that he does have this vulnerability of which can be a strength, I think, of like this compassion, this like platonic love he has. Like he truly loves these people. And that's something that I think is like really compelling about Gandalf because he truly makes these connections. He's not like Saruman where he finds like they're all below him. And it's like he could easily think that. He could easily be a god amongst men, quite literally, with all his power that he has, both physically and intelligence-wise, but he doesn't. He wants to create these real connections with people, and that I think that is a strength of his, but in a moment of vulnerability, it's strength as well. You get what I'm saying? I think it's a mixture of both, like with the way it is, and I think it shows so much of his character, and it's like a moment you don't really see from him often because he's so used to like having a plan and a backup plan and thinking on his feet when the plan goes awry. And this time he's just like, oh my gosh, like, did I fail? And did I fail Faramir kind of thing? And hey guys, it's Editing Evelyn. Just wanted to pop in saying that we are going to issue a trigger warning at this time, at this particular section. And if you want to skip to minute 30, second 31, the trigger warning will be over. Thank you so much. It was a really compassionate moment and a really good moment, and it's something that really resonated with me.
Yeah. So, right, and then Denethor starts talking about, the battle in vain.
Yes.
And Gandalf tells him, authority is not given to you to take your life or life.
Yes, that I loved. I loved that line too.
Okay, so I'm going to get into my other field, ethics here.
Okay.
All right. So
he is an ethics teacher, everybody. So
Tolkien's belief about suicide comes from his Catholicism.
Okay, so we need to put a trigger warning right here, just in case.
Okay. Yep.
So go ahead.
So Tolkien's belief about suicide is that, it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's
the Catholic belief is that it's wrong.
And a lot of
Christians believe that.
Christians come to that. But what's interesting is everything else in these stories, the culture that Tolkien is following, is not that way. That old Anglo-Saxon idea that it's an honorable way for a man to die is to take one's own life. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting contrast between what Tolkien just cannot write because of his beliefs and his ethics to what's kind of different. Mm-hmm. What should be different. And it also calls to mind, there's several places in there, much smaller places, where Tolkien leans towards Christian ethics. Even when this tale is about a culture that is different from one that would have that type of beliefs. The culture here does not have those type of beliefs about anyone they might be calling deities. Mm-hmm. So that's where the authority is not given to you to order the time of your own death.
Okay.
Okay. And he doesn't use the word, but he even points out Denethor's sins. Or, that at this moment, Denethor is in denial of hope. He is full of despair, dereliction of duty, and the fact that if he was going to die, do it on the battlefield, where you would be helping somebody by doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting here where...
Yeah, it's an interesting take.
Yeah.
All right. Trigger warning over. In the trigger warning over, if you saw it in the comments and the information about this episode, I'll put the time frame where to skip for the trigger warning for everybody. So it is now over, guys.
So, Gandalf also uses the word heathen here, and that's a I don't want to call it a relic. It's a relic of Christianity. So anybody who doesn't believe in the Trinity are heathens.
Right. Yeah.
And so, for lack of a better word, Gandalf uses the word. Tolkien uses this word for Gandalf to talk about those who worship Morgoth and Sauron instead.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's interesting too. That it's not just people rattling. It's not just people rattling to a cry for somebody that either afraid of or somebody that they are feel is going to be the winner of this, so they come to there's a form of worship.
Yes.
Of these two, and God and Gandalf, he gets really. He just does get, he shows his power, as I was saying before.
Yeah.
And he's trying, he has spent so many hundreds of years being folksy and giving out wisdom and education and all. But now he has to take a direct
approach.
A direct action.
Yes.
Because he's the one that gets Faramir out of there.
Yeah, he carries him out.
I mean, he didn't tell somebody to do it.
Yeah, he did it himself.
He did it himself.
Yeah. And
then after he does that, this is when we find out that Denethor had a Palantir, one of those balls. Yeah. Now, in the unfinished tales, there's talk in the unfinished tales of where they think they might have been. Mm-hmm. And the thought was might be a lost one somewhere in Gondor. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not lost.
He just keeps it hidden.
But see, it might have been lost and he found it.
Yeah, true.
But Denethor is saying, I have seen that there will be no victories for us. Now is the time to die if you don't want to be a slave.
Okay, so I just made a connection with the Rings of Power. So without spoilers, there is a Palantir in there. I'm not going to say what it shows, but that I guess it's a small spoiler. Sorry, everyone. But like, I finally I was really confused about how that worked in compared to what I knew before. But now reading this chapter, it makes a lot more sense in my head. But I can't get into it without spoiler territory. Spoilers, yeah. So I'll just keep my thoughts to myself for now. But yes.
and of course, Denethor still wants to fight.
Okay, yeah.
Fight with Gandalf. He's still trying to be on top of Gandalf. And he accuses Gandalf of wanting to be the ruler of all.
Yeah.
And that's why you left this damn hobbit with me, to spy on me.
He is so
gone
out of it.
Off
the rails.
Rocker. Yeah, off the rails. He has fallen off the rocker.
And
he's not just off the rails. He can't see the rails anymore.
Yeah, he's on the other side of the mountain from the rails. It's like I didn't like this guy even before I met him, and now like with this is, in my opinion, how you deal in a crisis shows your true character. And this is showing his true character. He's just not a good dude. Like, he's just not.
Right.
That's the only thing. Like, I could get more detailed, but he's a deadbeat jerk.
Right. Yeah, and
he's a deadbeat selfish jerk.
So Denethor, he starts the fire while he's standing on the table. He breaks the symbol of his office over his knee, his rod.
Mm-hmm.
And the enemy has worked on Denethor's will.
Yeah.
Denethor's will is now that of which the enemy wants him to be doing.
Right. They want him to be like this. They want him to be in despair. They want him to be hopeless. And Gandalf's like, I knew there was something going on here. It just took me a while to find it. And the enemy got into you, and that's because you're weak.
Right. So there is something from the Unfinished Tales. I wanted to talk about the Palantir as well. So in his writings on the Palantir, it says that the last kings of Gondor and then the stewards realized that the Ithil stone had probably fallen into Sauron's hands when Minas Tirith was captured. But the stone would be of little use to him for the damage of Gondor, unless it made contact with another stone that was in accord with it. And it's for this reason it may be supposed that the stone above all the records of the stewards are silenced until the war. Because there was no longer the regular connections weren't there. Also, you used to be able to look in it and be able to see other things. It wasn't just a communication device anymore.
Right.
At one time.
Yeah.
And apparently somehow Denethor has been able to awaken that. And that the stewards probably have had it. I misspoke earlier that Denethor found it. The stewards were silent about it because they all must have knew that they possessed it. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I knew I remember reading something like that, so that's why I
so
dug it
hearing
up.
that, the way it strikes me is that he was already a weakling, as a weakling, pathetic human, mm-hmm. and he's like, well, my last chance is this thing, and it's like, oh, or this thing I can use this thing against the enemy because of like pride and arrogance. It's just it just strikes me as like just all the sins, all the 7 deadly sins, and some.
Right. So Gandalf takes charge, mm-hmm. and him and Benegor, he's now so Benegor is now the key bearer, the keeper of the keys. Mm-hmm. Again, going a little bit back towards Tolkien's Catholicism.
Yeah.
So Peter, the Apostle Peter, mm-hmm. is the keeper of the keys to heaven.
Okay.
And the keys...
But I thought he was the rock.
He is the rock.
So he's the rock and the keys.
He is the rock and the keys.
Okay.
Or has the keys.
He's the rock that has the keys. Okay.
So, and how Catholicism and some other Christian denominations see that Peter has the keys to heaven and that they were handed to him by God.
Okay.
I don't mean literal
No, I know
keys.
I know you don't mean literally.
I'm letting everybody know I don't
Mean
literal
literally.
keys.
And we don't mean a literal rock either.
Yes. And so...
It's a metaphor, people.
So I find it interesting that Gandalf would make a big deal about somebody being the bearer of the keys, the keeper of the keys.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But, so they take off to the House of Healing.
Yes, with Faramir.
And on their way there, they hear this great cry. And all stood silent and still. I mean, that's the type of cry it was. Everybody's like, what the heck is that? They just shut up and they stand still and
trying to figure out
what is going
yes,
on.
Yeah. It's a yikes moment.
But it's a yikes moment, but then all hearts were filled with hope. Some people wept for rejoice and now have hope because of what they've heard. And what's interesting then is Pippin. Pippin is always.
And this is the Witch King dying, right? That's what I thought. Am I reading that? Was I interpreting that correctly?
So it's.
I read it as like the cry of the Witch King.
Right, but it's kind of doubled.
Okay.
It's it's the joy out of
So the field of battle lets out a cry.
Yeah, field of battle lets out a cry.
But probably because of that event.
Right.
Okay.
But also, I mean, it's interesting the way it all takes place. If you go back and remember the last couple of chapters, you'll remember that Theoden dies on the field of battle.
Right, yeah.
But at about the same time that happens is when the Witch King is slayed.
Yeah,
there's this mixture
of like, oh no versus oh yeah.
Right.
And as well as seeing Aragorn out in the distance where it's just like, all right, they're coming.
Right.
So it's a mix, yeah.
But then a rain comes to wash away the dirt, the grime, the darkness. I mean, it's rain. Even though it's raining, it's not dark.
It's more of a cleansing rain.
It's a cleansing rain.
Yeah.
Which, again, since I've already been talking about, Catholicism, and it's not just Catholicism. It's even because it's in the Old Testament, the whole thing about the cleansing of the earth, and Noah having to take up 2 of every animal.
Oh, see, I got Taylor Swift her song "Clean" from the album 1989. I didn't make a Harry Potter reference, but I made a Taylor Swift one.
So that's really the end of the chapters when the rain starts.
Yes, yeah.
So you got anything else?
I just want to say we are recording well into 43 minutes. I don't know how long it's going to be after we edit, but we made a lot out of 4 pages.
But you know what? That's
it's literally 4 pages, guys.
In our books, it's literally 4 pages, and yeah,
it was a dense, short chapter.
Yeah.
Like every little thing meant something.
Right? Yeah.
It wasn't pages of description.
It's almost like somebody was looking over Tolkien's shoulder, going, "Okay,
you need to split something up here.
There's too much here in one chapter."
Yeah.
Because most people read books by chapter, and they're just going to need a flipping break somewhere in here. But the next chapter is only 6 pages, I think.
Okay. All right.
Which is, the next chapter is the House of Healing, which is the place they just brought Faramir.
Okay.
So, predictions.
Faramir is going to get better.
I'm not going to let you have
Oh, come on. But I really want him to be better.
It's a foregone conclusion, so I'm not going to let you have it.
Okay. So what if I made it more specific?
Okay.
What if a bunch of women put a bunch of herbs on his wounds? You guys can't see the look he just Everybody's like...
My eye is twitching.
Oh, come on! That's a fantasy trope. I don't...
Exactly, it's a fantasy trope.
Yes!
Don't go for tropes.
I want to go for the trope, though, because I
Okay.
want to believe that Tolkien made the trope.
So, here you go, then.
I want the trope.
I want 4 predictions now.
Deal. But I get double points.
No.
Dang it. Thought that would work. 4 predictions. Okay. Alrighty.
So you got 1.
That means a point for me then, is what I'm assuming. Maybe, hopefully. Okay. So... House of Healing. I think... Once Gandalf is assured that Faramir is going to be taken care of, he's going to go out into the battlefield. And I'm going to say my second prediction is Pippin is going to go with him. Can I make that 2 different predictions? Okay. You said...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. And so I need a 4th prediction. My 4th prediction is... Okay, it's a little mean, but can I say no one's going to be that sad about Denethor? Is that too mean? Is that a mean prediction?
I'll let you make it.
No one's going to be that upset about Denethor dying. They're going to be, like, a teeny bitty upset. But, like, everyone's going to be like, yeah, that tracks. I don't like him. I don't.
The last part of his name is Thor.
Yeah, that's...
Why don't you like him?
Oh my god. That's weak. That's weak sauce.
So, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I've been Robert.
And I've been Evelyn.
And you've been listening to Token About It.